What you're witnessing now in real time is the effort to take down GB News completely. Now, I've been banned from that channel since its inception, but it gives me absolutely no pleasure to see what was done to me at LBC being done now to GB News as well. For a long time, they've had issues with the regulator. That's why they binned off Mark Stein. He was telling too many truths, bringing too many Ofcom complaints. And GB News tried to make Mark Stein responsible for his own Ofcom fines, which is financially prohibitive for anybody. Now they have an issue with the Dan Wootton show. Lawrence Fox was on there, made some comments, and that video is being circulated wildly. And in light of Russell Brand and the rest of it, it's inflammatory stuff. As was said to me at LBC, if you know you're standing in front of an open goal, why do you give them the ball? And I think that was a really accurate way of surmising when people are determined to eviscerate you, not because you're crap at your job, not because you aren't any good, but because you are really good at it. Because my LBC show was the most listened to Sunday commercial show, that's why you have to be removed, because you cannot be allowed to say the things that you're saying. It simply is not going to be tolerated by the powerful. And I was eviscerated. And it's why I'm able to clearly enunciate now what will be happening and the steps that will be being used in order to get rid of GB News completely. So number one is lawfare and litigation. Lawyers will be able to smell blood in the water right now. You've just had all the Russell Brand stuff. Now you've got Lawrence Fox on Dan Wootton's show saying, well, I wouldn't shag her, about a female journalist, and Dan Wootton tittering along and not really giving any pushback or what would be required by Ofcom to maybe make that okay, so they can smell blood in the water. Lawyers know, because of case law here in the UK that was set and made up especially in order to come after me, where people applauded, they enjoyed my takedown, but they forgot to see that the case law that was established is now going to be used against them, which says that damage is done at the moment of publication. So right now, those trying to take down GB News are encouraging the sharing of the clip. And the reason for that is the more eyeballs they can get on the clip of Dan and Fox, Lawrence Fox, the more they have a case when it comes to litigation, when they go for damages, when they go for punitive damages. The more eyeballs, the greater the reward for the lawyers and all of the teams and for the damages they'll be able to get, because damage is done at the moment of publication, and the more that it's seen, the better off they will be. And also because perceived serious harm can be done at the moment of publication. That was new law made up just for me in order to take everything I had. It means that you can't retract. You can't apologise. It doesn't matter if you apologise. It doesn't matter if you try and correct the record. It doesn't matter. You can prostrate yourself. You can self-flagellate. Damage is done at the moment of publication. So you have lawfare circling, and those sharks are not going to give up. I imagine cases against Lawrence Fox, cases against Dan Wootton, cases against GB News. Then you have the mainstream at work, and this will be coordinated by The Guardian. In my case at LBC, I received warning that at the conference that morning with Catherine Viner in The Guardian, I was made the point. The point was my evisceration, my removal from LBC. And Guardian worked together with their contacts, with their journalists, with their powerful networks to have me removed. There was a list signed up of people who would no longer appear on LBC if I was kept in my position. Over a tweet. There were all of the other journalists pushing out pieces to draw attention to what had gone on and how terrible it was that I'd called for the end of Islamist terrorism in the UK. And this will be happening for GB News right now. In conference, you can already see it. The Guardian articles being pushed out quickly. There'll be many, many more of those. The comment columns will be full of it. In the wake of Russell Brand, how can this comment be tolerated? How can we be accepting this? Why don't Ofcom do something? So that's the media strand that will be going on. It's very powerful. Linked to that is organisations and bodies. So if you are a women's rights campaigning network, if you are a feminist lobby, if you have anything to do with standing up for women, you're going to be brought in. So heads of organisations that stand up for women and abuse of women, they're going to be brought in. And those letters will be published in The Guardian, they'll be published elsewhere. 50 heads of leading feminist organisations says GB News needs to go, or Dan Wootton needs to go, or Lawrence Fox needs to go. So you start mobilising that. In my case, it was the Board of Deputies, the Chief Rabbi, it was the Muslim Council, all very useful groups of powerful influencers, already with their letters and lists of signatories all ready to go. They just have to change who it is they're complaining about. So that's at work in the media landscape. So you've got Lawfare, you've got the lobbying and the media and their ability to connect these signatories on documents that can then be reprinted. And then another kind of way that they will come for GB News is they will use Ofcom and the regulator. Now, Ofcom is really under pressure at the moment because it's been seen as being too weak. It's been seen as always writing a stern letter and not actually doing something. They've been using Ofcom to come for GB News for a long time. It will be the moment Ofcom might have been waiting for to actually make a stand and actually find against GB News. In this case, they need to be seen as acting. They're about to be given a whole bunch more clout thanks to the Online Safety Bill, which really means that you'll be spied at in your own homes. This is Ofcom's moment. And then what do you have? Oh, surprise, surprise. You have Carol Vorderman directing people to complain to Ofcom, giving them the data they need, giving them the link they need, giving them the information they need. So now you can have a mass pile-on. You could have this segment and GB News being the most complained about of all time, maybe even breaking my records. I mean, who knows? So that's the herding towards Ofcom. These people know it's a numbers game. They know it's a system game. And Ofcom wants to make a strong stand because they want to be seen as strong and they're fed up with being criticised as being too weak. So this plays into that. So you've got all those different things at work. And then, remember, huge amounts of funding flowing through all of these different networks. So there might be just you as this lone voice who got a job because you were pretty good at what you did and you spoke for ordinary people. You're up against millions of pounds or dollars flowing through Hope Not Hate, flowing through Chief Rabbi or the Board of Deputies, flowing through media organisations, the pressure of Ofcom. You have Labour wanting to be seen to be standing up for women and doing the right thing. They'd love to get rid of GB News. And then, of course, you have someone like Piers Morgan. Wherever someone is interfering or meddling or causing pain to others, Piers Morgan is never far behind. Do you think it'd be helpful for him and Talk TV if GB News no longer existed? Do you think he has direct contact with heads of media organisations and beyond? Absolutely. So that's what's going on right now. That's the level of pressure that is building as we speak against GB News, and that has to blow. And I don't take any joy in watching it happen. And even the fact that I know so many GB News presenters that have to self-inoculate from me, so they won't come anywhere near me in order to try and preserve their slot on GB News just for one more day, is that self-preservation, as you see, never really works in the long run. It doesn't give me any pleasure. But I've seen it all play out many times over already. And I'm watching this in slow time. It's like watching a car crash in slow time, and there's very little you can do about it. But I think that's what's going to happen in the next few days, and I think it could well be the end of GB News. And if it's not, all presenters will be called in. They will all be forced to sign new contracts. They will all be given their marching orders, and they will all have to tread a much more careful line, which means that what you see will be a neutered version, even more neutered, of GB News. You'll see other presenters have to leave, and you'll see some pretending to speak freely within an ever smaller and narrower space, just as you saw at Fox News, which is why Tucker Carlson had to inevitably jump ship. Anyway, that's what's actually going on. And I'm sure you'll see much of this as the days and weeks unfold.